I could literally spend the next 40 minutes just talking about the importance of cyber insurance in and of itself. So let's just start at the first scenario. So why is cyber insurance important? Well, set aside anything related to a breach and the expenses associated with that. Oftentimes, more often than not, post-incident, post-breach, there is some sort of lawsuit that is coming down the pike as a result of that incident. You're going to have to hire a lawyer to defend that lawsuit. Well, if you have cyber insurance coverage that would provide liability coverage to provide a defense in that lawsuit, that's reason number one that you're going to want cyber insurance coverage. And that's another aspect of cyber insurance that we have to think about is what does it cover? Because going back to the breach, when we're talking about what insurance coverage is, not all insurance coverages are identical. So they may have different exclusions and different policy limits. And so you want to make sure that your insurance policy at a bare minimum allows you to have business interruption insurance. That's the first thing. Okay, so business interruption. My business is down for a week because I've been ransomware. Well, how much do I need is always the question. And the way you do that is simple math, which is to say, okay, what is my gross revenue on average? What are my net expenses on average? And what's my net profit on average? Because you're going to want to be able to say, all right, I know that on average, I make $1,000 a week. Okay, great. Now, what's a reasonable time period that you're going to be down? Well, that's really kind of up in the air. Just because you pay a ransomware attack does not mean that they're going to give you the encryption key and actually give you your information back. It also depends on the way you have your systems backed up. Do you have them backed up in a separate cloud provider? Do you have them backed up on a hard drive? Those are all considerations that you need to have accounted for in analyzing how much business interruption insurance you actually need for that time period. You're also going to want to make sure that you have adequate coverage for notifications, because at the end of the day, each business is different. And depending on how many individuals you may need to notify in the event of a hack is going to dictate how much insurance you're going to want to cover for that notice. So those are just a few angles. You're looking at the liability side, you're looking at the breach side, and not only that, but you're going to want to make sure you have adequate coverage for the actual forensics team that comes in and helps contain and identify the risk that occurred in the first place. So you need to make sure that that's paid for. So for example, in Oklahoma, there's one insurance company that a lot of attorneys use, and it provides $50,000 worth of cyber coverage. And a lot of lawyers hear that and they think, oh, well, that's enough. But what they don't realize is all of the expenses. You're talking about a lawyer during the breach coach is how they're often referred to. You're talking about a forensics team, you're talking about a notification team, and then you're talking about a litigation team. So any lawyer with their salt is going to tell you 50 grand ain't going to cover that. Those are the angles for cybersecurity insurance first and foremost. The second angle that you need to think about is Delaware recently came out with a ruling that said officers and directors of corporations may be held liable in the event of a cyber breach if they haven't been doing what they should be doing. And so once you get into the realm of suing officers and directors, so we've had our breach and now we've got our lawsuit. Well, the cyber coverage may not even cover the officers and directors liability, which is why you still need to have E&O and D&O coverage in place. Insurance is an ecosystem. It's not a standalone functioning item like for your car, right? This is something when you're running a business, you have to have different policies that complement one another to make sure that you're adequately covered. To that point, understanding what is and is not covered is important too. So for example, conduit risk. What does that mean? So if I'm the business that's sitting here and I hold all the data and I have a vendor and the vendor gets hacked, and they access my system as a result of that hack, i.e. Target in 2014, where an HVAC company was able to steal their information. That's conduit risk. Would my insurance policy cover that? Or am I hung out to dry? Because it wasn't me that was negligent. It wasn't my company that messed up. It was somebody else that messed up. So again, this is all collaborative, but you have to actually understand the terms and conditions of your policies in order to make that collaboration functional.